Hi everybody, welcome to my channel Frugalisama. My name's Sam and this is where I talk about all things sewing, particularly dressmaking. Today is day 62 of 100 days of sewing. I'm going to give you some top tips of sewing this Badiane top, which is by Christelle Coud, and how to do the neckline and how to translate the page so that you can read it in English if English is your first language. And I will be putting timestamps below so you can skip to the bits that you need. But first of all, I'd just like to say thank you so much to everyone who's subscribed so far. If this is the sort of video that you like, then please, if you haven't already, click subscribe and hit the notification bell for when I've got new videos. Usually bring out videos on a Friday with Frugal Fridays. That will be all the free patterns that I found that week, any discounts and challenges and competitions. Midweek I bring a tips and tips or a tutorial video, and on a Sunday I bring out reviews and plans and makes and that sort of thing. So on to today's video. So just very briefly, I found this pattern whilst I was looking for patterns for my Frugal Fridays video last week, and I'd seen my friend Janet make it over on Instagram and I thought, yes, I really like that neckline. When I was talking on last week's video, I did say, does anybody want me to put a tutorial together about it? And everybody said yes please. That's because the instructions are in French. It's a French pattern and everything's in French. So I will go through how to translate the pattern, and then I will just go and highlight some of the finer points. Because it is just a very basic pattern apart from the neckline, I'm not going to go into too much depth. If you're fairly new to sewing with knits, if you want to go to my other video about sewing with knits, I'll link that at the end for you. So it's designed for knits. It's got a sweetheart neckline and it is just a very basic tee. I'll insert some photos as I'm speaking and then you can see what it looks like. It's got two sleeve length options, so you've got the short sleeve that I've gone for here, and then you've got a 3/4 sleeve that's got a cuff. So the kind of fabrics that it's designed for are cotton jerseys, an interlock, something that's relatively stable really. She's put elastic fabric, which I think translates as a jersey, and she's put linen and wool jersey there as well. Yeah, maybe a merino wool jersey would work, but you want something fairly stable. I wouldn't advise that you sew it with a viscose jersey, for example. I think it'd be really difficult to hold these curves and notches in this neckline if you went for something that was a little bit less stable. She's saying that you need between 3/4 and a metre of 150 centimetre wide fabric for the short sleeve version, and then a little bit more, up to 1.2 metres for the longer sleeve version. I only had around about 70 centimetres, I'll show you the picture, and I really did have some finagling to do to get it on the fabric that I had left. And this is fabric that was left over from my Galaxy t-shirt, and it is just a very stable cotton jersey, so it's ideal for this project. But I didn't have enough for the facing, so I've just gone for a contrast on the facing there. And I just like the idea that you get a flash of pink when I turn, but you can't see it from the outside. So it is actually a really simple make, is this. All you need apart from your fabric is some interfacing and obviously thread, and that's it. To print the pattern there's only 16 pages, and one of those pages doesn't need sticking because that's just a cuff. The instructions come as part of the pattern, but I didn't bother printing that off. I just printed the 16 pages that I needed for the actual pattern, and then I read the rest of it off my computer. So the instructions are in French, so what I will do is do a screen share on how to easily translate the instructions for you. It does result in some of the formatting getting a bit mashed up a bit, but what I'll do is talk you through the instructions and then you've got that as a backup. But it is straightforward really. The only complicated bit, and it's not really complicated, is this neckline. If you've made a t-shirt before, then you'll be okay. The European size range for this is a 32 to 52, and that translates as a 30-inch bust to a 48-inch bust. I'm a 37-inch bust, and naturally I was between sizes. So I went for the size up. I was between a size 40 and a size 42. My waist is a 32-inch and my hips are about 40-inch, so everything fell better into a size 42. And in terms of fit, it fits really nicely on the shoulder, and it's quite loose throughout the waist and the hip. It does specifically say go by your bust size. There are no finished measurements on the pattern, so that's just something to look out for. Size 40 would be for a 92 centimetre bust, and that is 36.225 or something, and the size up, the 42, is a 96-inch bust, and that is a 37.79, so that's what I went for. And I would say that it's actually fitted through the bust and loose through the waist and the hip. Personally, I think I prefer another ½ inch on either side. It's not tight, but I wouldn't want it any tighter, and I'm glad I went for the size 42. So I think when you're making it, I think you need to make that decision as to how much room around the bust that you prefer. Obviously, if you make it with something with a little bit more elastic, then you're going to have a little bit more give in the bust. So there's no finished measurement instructions, and there's no talk about how much stretch you should have in your fabric. It does just say use like a cotton jersey or whatever. It doesn't say what kind of stretch that they're looking for. So my advice really would be to go by your bust measurement, but if you're between sizes, go up a size, because I am finding that it is fitted throughout the bust. And it is designed for somebody who is 168 centimetres tall, which works out at 5'5". Now I'm 5'8". So in theory I should have put about an inch or an inch and a half onto the length of it, but I left it as it is because I like to sew things up and just see how they are and how they sit. I could tell on the pictures on the website that it is quite long, so I didn't bother putting any extra length in, and I really don't need it. It's meeting me mid-hip, and that's perfect for me. So there's just 5 pattern pieces to this. So you've got your front, your back, your sleeve, that's 3, and then you've got your front facing and your back facing, that's 5. And then you'll just need to cut some interfacing to go around this neckline and to stabilise your shoulder seams as well. It's designed for seam allowances of 0.7 centimetres. That's about 1/4 of an inch, I think. A bit of a bizarre one. And all the hems are 2 centimetres. And the instructions are given for sewing it straight onto an overlocker or sewing it on a machine. I did it on my overlocker, but you can equally sew it on a sewing machine as well. You don't need an overlocker for this project. You don't need an overlocker for any project, in my opinion. So it does give quite a lot of information within the written instructions of how to set up your serger so that your blade sits at 0.7 centimetres. I just ignored that. I don't like to move my blade about, and I can actually judge where 1/4 of an inch is on my overlocker, so I didn't bother moving my overlocker knife across, but you can do that if you want. But that's just explaining what that bit is. I'm going to cut now into how to translate the page, so you've got the instructions for yourself, and then just a little tutorial, just talking you through the stages of the pattern and a little bit more in depth on doing this neckline. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll come back when I've finished. First of all, go to the website, which is christellecoud.net. And if you open it in Google Chrome, it will give you the option to translate into English. I'll leave a link to the website below for you. Click the Add to Cart button, which will take you to a page where you can fill in all your details. And just fill in all your details there, and make sure you've ticked these 2 buttons, and then click. That takes you to the checkout, and then you will be sent an email with the PDF. So in Google Chrome, type in the website translate.google.com, and you'll be taken to this page. Click the Documents button, which is in the top left of the page, and then choose your document. If you click on Browse or do a search and find your document and click and open it, select your language and then click Translate, and it will open your document in the language, but it will be formatted without any pictures. So as you scroll down, you'll see some strange formatting, and that's where any pictures have been and any sort of diagrams or anything like that. So this is just scrolling down the page, and you can see how it's formatted, and the English isn't perfect, but it is good enough in order to read it. So as I keep scrolling down now, it will actually open the whole document, which includes the pattern pieces at the end. You can just ignore that, you just need the instructions there. So it tells you how to sew with the sewing machine and with the serger there. So if you keep scrolling down, this is where you'll find the pattern pieces, which you can just ignore. And now on to the tutorial. On the wrong side of your front and back pieces, apply interfacing or knit and stable around the neckline, around about 1 centimetre wide, and on the shoulder seams. Once you've applied your knit and stable, you can join your shoulder seams for your facings and for your back and front pieces. and then finish the edges of your facings. And I've just stabilised that facing with some spray starch. Okay, so that's your neckband all sewn together at the shoulder seams, finished around the edges with a serger, and I've actually put a bit of spray starch on this as well because it was curling a bit, so spray starched it and ironed it to stop it from curling and making it a little bit easier to work with. So that's that, and the shoulder seams are sewn together on the top as well. And next step is to place your facing right sides together onto your top. Turn your top your right way around. Turn your facing the right way around, and you just want to match your shoulder seams. What I suggest you do is start by matching all these corners first. That's your neck facing pinned around the neckline, matched at the shoulder seams. All these points are pinned as well, and the centre back and the centre front. And all you're going to do now is take that to your sewing machine, making sure that you've got a ballpoint needle in, and sew at 1/4 of an inch all the way around. If you've got any problems with accuracy, you can just come in with a seam gauge and just mark those 1/4 inches. Just make sure that they're at the correct points. That's where you can stop and pivot your needles. It's a bit more angular than a normal neckline, and make sure everything's matched up properly as well. So this is your neckline all stitched within all that stay tape that you put in. Next you're going to go in and clip right into these corners at the centre front and these two sides, just to go right as far as the stitching as you dare so that it turns correctly. Next, trim down the bodice part to about 1/8 of an inch so that you can, when you turn it, it lies nice and flat, and then give it a good press. Turn it to the right side and make sure that you've no facings showing, and clip or pin to top stitch. Okay, so that's your neckline all pressed with your facing onto the inside. I've just made sure that the facings roll to the inside slightly. And next you're going to stitch around this neckline at 1/2 centimetre. That's around about 1/8 of an inch. If you want to put a label in, now's a good time. Bob a label in there, and then you can catch it within that stitching. Okay, so your next step is to insert your sleeves. As you can see from this pattern piece, the sleeve piece is cut on the fold, so there's no back or front to the sleeves. They are equal, which means that you really do need to just make sure that you've marked your top of your shoulder with a notch. So matching your middle of your sleeve with a shoulder notch, bottom of the sleeve with the side seams, and then you just need to feed it in. And because it's done on the flat, there shouldn't be much easing in. It just goes in nice and easily. I've gone straight to the overlocker and overlocked the sleeves in. And whilst I was at the overlocker, I've overlocked the hems of the sleeve and the bottom, just to save me time. You don't actually need to, it's just something that I prefer to do. And I've also pressed the bottom of my sleeves up. I usually do that whilst they're still flat. I usually do it before I've sewn them in, but I forgot. It's just less fiddly. Next thing is to sew your side seams up and the sleeves. So you just need to open those sleeves out again. You don't sew them pressed. So right sides together from the hem of the sleeve right the way down to the hem of the bottom of the top. Just pin it. I'm going to do that straight on the overlocker as well. And then we'll need to do some pressing as well. So pressing the sleeves and the seam. Before I hem it, I've just bobbed some interfacing in the bottom of that hem there, just to stabilise it. And hems on the bottom of the top and on the bottom of the sleeves are 2 centimetres. So press them up and then finish whichever way you like, twin needle or zigzag or whatever you like, whatever your preferred method is. If you've got a cover stitch, do it in a cover stitch. And that's it, that's your t-shirt finished. One little extra thing that I did was I sewed this label in the middle there. That's a Kylie machine label, and you can see the top stitching at that side there. I think it's just sort of more of a ready to wear thing, you see that quite often, and it just stops that from flipping up. And I've also done some stitching the ditch on that shoulder seam there, again to stop it flipping up at the shoulder seam. So that's both sides, and that's it finished. So that's it from me today. I hope you found the tutorial and the hints and tips helpful. Like I say, I've got a full video on sewing with knits if you want to go to that. Essentially, you just need to remember to make sure that you've got the correct needle in when you're sewing this. And I hope it's just clarified how to do this neckline and giving you an idea for maybe doing a fancy one. I think if I've not been short of fabric, I wouldn't have thought to do it, but I quite like it now I've got it. That's it from me. I hope you found this useful. I will be back on Friday with another Frugal Fridays video. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. I'm trying to build a little community here and it's all been lovely and friendly, so thank you so much for that, and I'll be back on Friday. Thanks for watching. Bye.